In today's video, I'm making Z-Laner the exact kilo that he used to use in the glory days of Warzone. Remember Verdansk?
Players left alive. One goes down. Game time!
Normally, I would choose the most detailed designs to recreate by hand painting, but Z asked for the opposite, black. In-game, the camo looked awesome, but making that texture look right with just paint would be extremely difficult. So I got to the drawing board. Option 1 would be to sculpt the whole thing with clay, but I wouldn't even know where to start. Option 2 would be to 3D print it and then add to the surface. This could work, but it gave me the idea for option 3. Do all of that sculpting in the computer on the 3D model and then print that. That seems like the obvious answer, but I know next to nothing about 3D modeling. So I hired a professional. This is my friend Rectangulator. He's an absolute master of all things 3D. He took the basic model of the kilo and added all of these little ridges to the file. And so now that we have this digital Obsidian Kilo, what's next? Instead of going headfirst into the full thing, I tested out the painting on a small part. I printed just the grip, brushed on some UV resin, cured it, and I was starting to get hopeful that this might actually work. I finished it off with some pearlescent black paint and a glossy finish. This turned out way better than I was expecting, and I think we might actually be able to do this in one go.
We got some major issues going on here.
This time, I had a friend help me out with the print. He can print things in much larger pieces, and that should save me some time. So about a week and a half later, a box showed up at my door.
And here we are. Let's open this bad boy up. I'm so freaking excited to see what this looks like. We have a problem. Okay, so let's take a look here. Yeah, maybe I should have just done this myself. There's just a lot of layer lines. There's whatever's going on there. Yeah, this one's tough. This is just a hole in it. Here's the suppressor. It has none of the details. Yeah. So we need to start over.
The first few prints went off without a hitch, but that didn't last forever. The supports just kept failing. No matter what I changed or settings I tweaked, it just wouldn't work. And in my frustration, I moved on to some other projects, but I had to beat the curse. So I tried it one more time and it printed great. This build is going to break down into 3 sections. Now that we have the whole thing printed, the first is knocked off the list. Printing done. Second up, we need to prep the surface for paint. And this is going to have a couple of steps in itself, but to start, we need to take our finished print and, well, we got to make it look a little bit nicer than it is. There is some problem areas that some of the supports just stuck a little bit too much. That is what it is. Then once we have the surface absolutely perfect, we are going to be using a special type of paint on this one. And I'll tell you about that a little bit more when we get there. But first, let's get started. You can see here all of the little details that were added to the file that once painted are gonna give us that obsidian effect. Next, we've got our suppressor. I love the way that the stock turned out. It looks freaking sweet. Then the final piece is this big one, and you can see there is a lot of detail on this. I'm really happy with how the Bamboo Lab printer handled this. We are gonna start gluing this stuff together, and then we'll see you after. All right, so I've got this first piece glued together, and that's just sitting and curing. So while that's happening, let's move on to some of these other pieces that just need a little bit of work. So you can see on the back here, there's just a little bit of filament that was just from the supports. So we want to fix that. I have this little sanding stick here, and it's nice to just kind of get into the nooks and crannies. All right, with that kind of sanded down a little bit, I'm actually going to try something that I haven't really shown you guys, and we're going to use a little bit of UV resin. I don't want to use a lot of Bondo on this because we're going to be doing UV resin over the whole thing. On this one, like I showed you before, we have this really bad spot. So I'm going to sand down this edge, and then we're going to kind of fill in that gap with the UV resin, and you will never know it was there once we're all painted and done.
Now we need to do the really hard one. And that is this spot right here.
All right, now with all of the big spots filled, once again, go to the resin, but a different kind this time. This time, we're gonna be going all over the whole piece. Every little inch and crack and crevice is gonna be filled with our resin, and it's an alternative to Bondo, kind of. We really don't want to fill in too many of the details. The big thing with Obsidian is, yes, it's shiny black, but it has all of that texture and it has all of that stuff. We're just gonna go to town on this thing. Let's get it.
Now the next step is we need to wash this. When it cures, there's a lot of like extra resin that just doesn't finish curing. We got our wash station here. This isn't gonna fill in there, so we're just gonna kind of dunk it, do our best to fit it. All right, that's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just spray the isopropyl alcohol all over this, blot off the surface. Then we will just let this dry and do the rest of these pieces. Luckily, the rest of these pieces I should be able to just dunk in there.
Hi, it's a couple of days, maybe a couple weeks later. I don't really know. We kind of forgot about this one. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of cool projects. Definitely, if you haven't checked them out, check out the channel. But we're back and it's time to sand. Let's smooth this thing out, huh? Alrighty, we are all sanded here. We're gonna be doing a special process on this one, and I'm gonna be using 3 different spray paints. The first is going to be our primer. The next step is a base coat, and we're using this Duplicolor metal cast anodized coating. This is like for car wheels. Then, what is going to make it really, really shiny and give us the black, at least we hope, we're gonna be doing this. And this is a top coat over that shiny part. This is called black smoke, and basically the more layers you put on of this, the darker it gets. So we're probably gonna do several coats of that because we want this to be black, but we want it to be super, super, super shiny. And then after we get all this painting, we are not done yet. We have to do some signature details for Z-Laner. So let's not waste any more time and get this freaking painted.
And away we go.
All right, I let all those pieces dry overnight and they look really freaking sweet. Like low key, I'm like, yeah, we're done. And then we have this. I'm sure on camera, like that looks freaking sweet. My only issue is I really want this thing to be perfect. And there is just like some like little scuffs. There's little bumps everywhere. We gotta sand it. I'm just gonna kind of try to hit some of those with just like a really, really high grit sandpaper without going through the primer all the way. So let's do that. That worked shockingly well. You can see there's all these like little specks everywhere. And that really actually didn't take me as long as I expected. And I think it's gonna look way better because of it. Next, what we're gonna do, I think I'm actually going to assemble it now, let that dry, and then we'll do the other paints. Let's get this thing assembled. I'm gonna just kind of... And then there were 2. They look freaking awesome. The black makes it really easy to look seamless. All right, I've got it all in one freaking piece. And look how freaking sweet this looks. I mean, like, it looks great just as it is. I almost just dropped it. Oh my God. Since I'm gonna be painting it in one piece, and that's basically just gonna be laying on the ground, I'm printing out these little paint risers. I found a file on Colts 3D. I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested. Once that's done, we will start the painting process. Oh, not again! Oh, as you can see, it has happened again, ladies and gentlemen. The print has failed. Everything just basically came off the build plate. I think I can salvage it for this. Let's see how it goes. This one's really crazy. Okay, that kind of works. It is time to paint. The directions say 2 light coats followed by a medium wet coat.
Coat number 2. And coat number 3.
All right, now we've got that all sprayed it looks like platinum. It's really actually sick. Makes me want to do a platinum gun. Maybe let me know in the comments if I should do that. Now it's time to put the black on.
I see the vision. Second coat. Now we're really getting somewhere. We got 2 more coats to go. Trust the process. Let's go.
So now we've got the Kilo all painted for the most part. It looks awesome. I am so incredibly happy with the way this turned out. But the most important part still has to go on. This is for Z-Laner, so I want to make it personal to him. We are going to add his logo. Here we are in Adobe Illustrator here, a program that graphic designers use, and all I'm going to do is just kind of trace these areas here. Boom. I think that looks good. We're going to upload that into our vinyl cutter, and then that's going to make us like a little stencil. I'm going to measure on the piece how big we want it. I'm going to make it basically as big as possible. Then we'll put that onto the piece and then basically just use that as a guide. If we're going to use this as a stencil, we want to pull out the actual design. Now we've got a little stencil here. We need to use what's called transfer tape. This will just stick right on here. That's just going to peel off right like that, just like a sticker would. And I am just kind of pressing this down. I think that looks good. See if I can draw on this. I kind of can. I'm just going to remove this now, and we hope that it went well. So you can see we've got a little bit of a shadow of a logo there. And so now we're just going to use that, and we are going to use our paint here, and we start painting. When we're done painting, we are left with this. I absolutely love the way this thing turned out. There's several parts of this project that I really was unsure if it was going to turn out the way that I thought in my head, and I think it did really well. I especially love the way it looks out in the sun, where you can really see all of the speckles shining through the black layer. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, push these videos out to more people so I can keep making these. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys in the next one.